comic books, cause I don't wanna look at nothing. This world's too much, I swallowed all I could.
Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of Trade Talk. This is episode 42, and I'm your host, Niko. I hope everybody is keeping safe out there and healthy with everything going on in the world. Just, always want to start off by saying that with everything happening at this moment, because we've all been affected by COVID, essentially. But, here's hoping you're doing well, and if you are tuning into this show, thank you for taking the time to do so. I know this certainly helps me. It's definitely, being a good outlet for me to kind of do something during this period of time. Okay, so we got a few books here to talk about today, so let's get into it. First up, we got Samurai Grandpa. This is written by Easton DeVerna and drawn by Sean Daly. Now, these might not be household names to you. I mostly picked this up for Sean Daly. Sean Daly is a Canadian cartoonist, lives in Toronto here, so I met him at local shows. So if you're not familiar with his work, definitely look him up. I mean, the easy thing to say is that his work his art looks like Jeff Lemire's, essentially. It's got its own kind of a flavor to it as well, I'd say. But yeah, I mean, he's definitely, I would say either influenced by him or has a similar style to Jeff, in the sense that his pencils seem to be a little loose. His character work, kind of reminiscent of Jeff's, like his style, as well as like he does the pencils, and he also watercolors a lot of his stuff. So so he has a lot of the same stylistic approaches, I think, to his work that Jeff does, and you can definitely see a little bit of that in his stuff. So, whenever I tell people, I've mentioned his work to people, I think that I kind of start out by saying that, because if they are a fan of Jeff's, then it's an easy way for them to kind of maybe get into his stuff. He's a guy who's on the come up, indie cartoonist, I guess you could say, or just hasn't really done work, I think, with the big two. But you don't need to, right? You can still make a living, and he's been bringing out a few different books from publishers. Like his stuff now, I've seen some of it in previews. He did a book, I guess he's most well known for something called Terraquil, which was a stories that took place in his own little world that he made. He did a Kickstarter that was successful for it. I picked up the trade paperback. I funded that Kickstarter. I first came across his stuff at my local comic book store, and then came across his work also at one of the cons here in Toronto. So I'm a big fan of his stuff. He's a nice guy, and he also, I like his art. He's also a mutual fan of Dragon Ball. We talked about that. I got him to do me a Dragon Ball Z commission, which I love, with a bunch of different characters on it, because his price rate was a little bit less than, most professional artists, just because, he's not as well known. But yeah, great stuff. Samurai Grandpa, though, is also good. I also enjoyed it. He didn't write and draw it like some of the other stuff of his that I've enjoyed. He did the art. I think he's definitely been getting better. I think this is, he did a lot of pages in this. This is a fully formed, graphic novel. He did a lot of pages in this. I don't know how many pages this actually is, but it's probably, I think it's 7 or 8 issues, I think, of this series that had come out. I'm just trying to check right now. I think this was independent. This was also a Kickstarter. I picked this up from him from a show. You may be able to find it for sale online. I don't know if maybe it's through one of their websites or by other means. But yeah, look it up, Samurai Grandpa. And it's a really good story. I liked it. It was it's about a grandpa who used to be a samurai. He's an old man now. Something came back from his past to seek out revenge, and as a result, it affected his family. And then he goes on a journey to save I think it's his son that gets taken in this, and then he goes on a journey to save him, but then in doing so, he learns a lot about himself and his past, and then kind of where he's at in life now. Yeah, so there's 4 chapters in here, but this chapter alone is like, it's double the size of a single issue, it seems like. So yeah, this is definitely like a 120 page graphic novel. It comes in a nice hardcover package. Retail, this is for $20. Well worth it. Like I said, great cartooning. If you like samurais, if you like stories like the one I just described, people reflecting on their life and things like this. Definitely worth checking out. And I'm a sucker for anything that's kind of like samurais or ninjas or any of that kind of stuff. But something like this, where it's like an old man kind of, also, like I said, reflecting on his life, and drawn by Sean. Great stuff. So definitely check this out, Samurai Grandpa. I really quite enjoyed it. It was a nice little quick read. I read it in one sitting. But yeah, definitely if you're able to find a copy, check that out. Next up, we got The Complete Battlefields Volume 3. Talked about Volume 2 last episode. Written by Garth Ennis, art by Russ Braun and Carlos Esquerra, basically returning to write the final installment of these stories of the characters of the tankies, like the guys that drive the tank, as well as Anna Kharkova, the Russian fighter pilot. I talked about the last 2 stories with these 2 different sets of people in different wars, different groups last episode. And in these 2 stories, once again, just a real treat. He does what he does best, tells a great war story, and also about, human beings, and really kind of centers in on you being able to relate to these people, even though you may have never fought in a war. You don't know what, they're going through, but he does a great job. And basically in this last one, Anna Kharkova, she through all the trials and tribulations of shit that she's gone through in this war, at the end of this story, of her story, it doesn't look very good for her. The events of her life didn't pan out the way she wanted to. She continues to be disrespected because of the fact that she's a woman, and in the war, and at the end she kind of gets the last laugh. It's kind of like a bittersweet ending for her. And then in the Tankies one, but great story. The Tankies one, I found this one to be even better than the last one, and a great way to end out the series. And that one's just a lot of fun with all the different, you're following a Scottishman, all the funny little, the spot on, at least sounding while you're reading it, accents that Garth Ennis is able to write for these type of characters, as well as the rest of his troupe. The unique way of looking at their position in the war and what the hell is going on. In this one, basically, there's the guy that he saved in the last Tanky story. His son now, I guess he got discharged because he got injured or something like that during the war. But I guess his son now is joining the war effort, and he ended up in the same tank crew with the Scottish men from the last story that we've been following throughout these tank stories. And he's looking for him for guidance and advice and all this and that, because his father said for him to stick with him, and he'll see you through the war and this kind of thing, because he's the guy who helped him, and he kind of didn't want that responsibility over his head. He didn't want to have to be the guy to break it to him. He's like, I'm not God. I can't, I can't save you. I can't be there for you. You got to be in this as well. Right. So he goes out on some sort of venture in the tank, trying to scare the shit out of the kid somewhat, trying to give him a dose of reality. And next thing you know, he finds out they somehow in the middle of the night ended up behind enemy lines, on the other side, far away from their group, and then they had to meet up with another group that's on their side in order to make their way back. So it's just it just kind of went tits up very quickly, and it was an interesting funny story with great characters, And again, I really enjoyed all the tankies, because I think tankies was the name of the first one, so that's why I keep referring it to them. Like, that's what he was calling the group of people that were in the tanks, or maybe that's what they used to call them. But essentially, all the ones of this group of people that drive the tanks. He had one in each volume of these complete battlefields hardcovers, and this was great, just like the other ones. Like I said, Russ Braun, Carlos Siscara. Likewise, like I said last week, they did a great job on both of these. I like their art a lot. And Battlefields, definitely check it out. I really like his war stories. Garth Ennis, the best in the biz at that. So next up, we got The Spire, written by Simon Spurrier, art by Jeff Stokely. The Spire is an 8-issue series, kind of like a fantasy noir, I guess they labeled it as. Rightly so. It's like very high fantasy. It's so much so that it took me a couple of issues to kind of get into it. I also find that to be the case with a lot of Simon Spurrier's art. He really writing. He rewards you for kind of sticking in with him, I think, and he doesn't. He's one of those writers, I think, that doesn't make it easy on a reader. You really got to invest yourself into what's going on and follow along with the plot and the world building that he establishes, and pretty much anything he does, because there's so many things where he's worked on different types of books, fantasy type books, and again with mixing different types of genres with that. It's never always just the one thing, and I find that not everything's for me that I've read by him. I haven't loved everything he's done or clicked with everything, but there's definitely a good string of books actually that have come out from Boom, where this book was published from, that I did quite enjoy. I mean, Six Gun Gorilla, The Spire, which basically reunites this team. I read Six Gun Gorilla originally, and Jeff Stokely is drew that with Simon Spurrier as well. And then the other book I talked about on this show, I talked about previously, which Coda. That's right. Love that book. Yeah, so that was like the newest thing that he had done that I read. And The Spire I've had for quite a while. I read a couple of issues when it first came out. Figured it'd be something that may be better revisited in a trade, and I continued to hear good things about it. So I picked up the trade. So I've had this in my reading to read pile for quite a while. I finally got a chance to check it out. And it was great, man. I really enjoyed this. It's basically a murder mystery, hence I guess like the noir kind of fantasy take that they got. There's a killer on the loose. Someone's investigating the deaths that are happening. You think you know who it is, and then by the time the last couple of issues hit you in this 8-issue trade, everything gets turned around, and and a lot of surprises, like a lot of unexpected twists and turns, and whoever was involved in the murders that are going on in this book, I didn't see coming. So that was good. It was well done, well set up, excellent art, cool world building, great characters, great dialogue. I will say it took a couple issues for me to really get into it, though. But once you were into it, you were into it. Like you were good to go, and I think it helped that it was an 8-issue series as well. So most of these type of things, these miniseries get 5-6 issues, but this needed a couple issues to build up, because I found it challenging at first, but I'm glad I stuck with it. I really ended up enjoying it a lot. Jeff Stokely's art. I'm trying to find someone to compare it to, so you kind of might know if you're not familiar with his work. Kind of James Herron-ish, I want to say, kind of. Probably a little bit less detailed than that. There's another artist too that's like on the tip of my tongue, but I can't for the life of me remember. But yeah, check out his stuff. He's really good. If you just Google Jeff Stokely or The Spire, check out the artwork, because I think he's a guy who's, I don't know what he's working on now, but this and Six Gun Gorilla. And I know he did a lot of Jim Henson stuff through Boom. He did a lot of stuff through Boom. I'm just looking at the back of his credits here on the back of the book. Jim Henson's a storyteller, witches. I don't know what else he's worked on. There's another one about dragons that he did that I read that was pretty good too, but that was like an all ages book. but again, he drew it. Excellent artist. So definitely check out his stuff, The Spire. Again, is Simon Spurrier someone you haven't really loved a lot of what he's done? I would say maybe still try this out. But again, know that it's a bit challenging. At least for me, I found it to be at first. But I stuck with it and was well rewarded. And I really loved the hell out of this book. It was really good. A lot of mystery and intrigue. And like I said, great story. And last but not least, we got God Hates Astronauts. But not the regular series that came out through Image. This is God Hates Astronauts presents 3D Cowboys 2D Spectacular. Now, this is a book that was originally Kickstarted. He raised the money online for it. Ryan Brown, the creator of God Hates Astronauts, I seen him at a con in Chicago, and I bought this from him last year, and I didn't originally get a chance to Kickstarter it, but I'm glad I seen him at a show and that he had copies of this because I definitely wanted to support it, and I really, really love God Hates Astronauts. If you haven't ever read God Hates Astronauts, it's something that Ryan Brown draws and writes. I definitely suggest you check it out. It's one of those things that just needs to be experienced, but I will say the good thing about it is, the great thing really is that it's a comedy book. It's a straight up comedy, and there's not a lot of good comedy comic books, and with everything, humor is very particular with a lot of people. If you don't find it funny, you don't find it funny, but it's like balls to the wall zaniness, crazy random type shit that goes on in this book, and the jokes that he does, I find him to be a very, very funny guy. It's very absurdist. It works for me quite a bit. So I think if you have never read it, try out a sampling. There's about 3 trade paperbacks that have come out through Image Comics of his series when it was an ongoing series for a short period of time through Image. So definitely check those out. Maybe even just check out the first trade. If you like the humor in it, if you like the cartooning in it that he does, because he's the writer and the artist, definitely check this out. If you ever see him at a show, he might have books of this. I don't know if he sells them online on his a lot of these artists have stores online you can buy stuff from. But it was successfully Kickstarted, and it comes in a nice little hardcover. And the cool thing about this one is, so the series ended at Image. They stopped it. Maybe didn't have good sales. He stopped doing it, and then he did this Kickstarter, came out with this. And the good thing about this was he wrote all this, but he only drew, I don't know, maybe like several pages in this hardcover, and it's pretty good size, probably 80 or 100 pages, I would say. And he basically, I guess, paid from the Kickstarter to get all these really kick-ass artists that he's friends with and that he likes to draw pages in this book. So the character, the 3D Cowboy character from his God Hates Astronauts, he's the narrator in the original series, and then this kind of continued where they left off with that character from the God Hates Astronauts ongoing. I guess he's in prison at the start of this book, and his son goes to visit him, and he's telling his son that he should grow up to be a narrator like him. And he's like, come on, son, I'll show you how it's done. And he starts telling stories to him, and then the stories are then that he tells, like, all these like crazy stories about characters from the God Hates Astronauts universe that you may know if you read the original series. You didn't have to, though. This could be your first foray into this if you find this, by the way. But all the characters that he talks about, and he gets a different artist to draw each story. And let me just tell you the level of talent on this book, quite amazing. So we got Ryan Brown, first of all. He did some stuff. Then you got Paulo Rivera that drew one of the stories. James Heron, who I just talked about, drew one of the stories. Greg Smallwood. Andy McDonald, Ryan Lee. He's really good if you don't know him. He's more, again, up-and-coming guy. He's really, really good, though. Chris Burnham, Rob Guillory from Chew, another popular comedy series, and also the Farmhand, the current Image series, is doing really good. Xander Cannon, Buster Moody, Robert Wilson, and Joe Quinones. This is a great lineup of artists, and each one of those artists draws his own story in this. And I just laughed quite a bit while reading this, man. It's so funny. And then in between, like, all the chapters and stuff, like at the start of the book and the end of the book, you get all these like intros from Ryan that are fucking hilarious. It's literally just Ryan writing like in his own voice, like all this zany shit, and then you get to a 2-page spread of suggested voice talents in order of appearance, like in the book, and he tries to pair them with like a famous person that he states that he thinks of in his head to be talking when he's drawing these characters on the page. So it's really cool. And then at the end of the book, you even get a bunch of funny like written stuff that he wrote in this as well. So definitely check this out. If you can't get your hands on this, though, definitely check out the main ongoing series. Like I said, there's 3 trades that he put out of that. Also, he did another book too that was kind of like a 24-hour comic. I think it's like one of those, either one of those ones where you do a page a day or a 24-hour, but I think it was a 24-hour comic, and he's supposed to bust out, like, again, like as many pages as he can, at least 24 pages to do a story. That's usually how those go, like where you just draw all day, right? And he did one that was called Blast Furnace. I believe that was the premise for the idea of the comic, or it was one of those like free thinking type comics, like whatever he thinks of, he makes a page out of it. It may have been a page a day, maybe not 24 hours, because I'm looking at the trade on my shelf right now, and it's quite thick. So that was another book that you can probably find online that he self-published somewhere. Or like I said, if you see him at a show, that's another really funny book that he did himself. And he's done stuff in, in like with Marvel, he's done, some fill-in stuff, and he also did some Image stuff. So you'll see his name around, Ryan Brown. Okay, but otherwise, that'll be it for today, guys, and we'll see you guys next time. And once again, thanks for tuning in. Let me know what you think of this show, and we'll see you guys next week. Thank you.